Right now on the Daily Debrief, the Jussie Smollett case.
You want to take it off or anything?
Yeah, I do. I just want to see it.
Police released body cam footage showing the actor after his infamous fake attack. The Cardi B case. The female hip-hop artist of the year faces a judge. The McStay family murder case, where a jury orders a punishment. And the Wesley Mathews case, where a father tries to explain his actions surrounding the death of his own daughter.
Why didn't you call the police at 3:15 in the morning?
The Daily Debrief recaps the day in court. It's Tuesday, June 25th. Welcome to the Debrief, everybody. Aaron Keller, along with Linda Kenny Bodden. Gene Rossi will be joining us in a moment. Chicago police have released body camera footage of their interactions with actor Jussie Smollett. Chicago prosecutor Kim Fox dropped charges against Smollett, a move which is currently under investigation by a newly appointed special prosecutor. The police say Smollett made up a so-called racist and homophobic attack. In releasing the recording of the first interaction with Smollett, the police blurred out Smollett's face and that of his manager. Here is that recording.
And the reason I'm calling because of this.
Okay. You want to take it off or anything?
Yeah, I do. I just want to see it. There's bleach on me. They put bleach on me.
Okay.
You're filming us, right?
Yeah, this is all being
If you want, if it's in his house,
They're filming you.
you're being audio and
Like audio. That I guess when they didn't know when they were walking into the door. Okay, so can we turn it off?
yeah, you're giving us permission to shut it off.
Okay, we're going to throw all formality out the window here, folks, because we have a defendant taking the stand in Texas. This is the Wesley Matthews trial in that state. This man originally faced a murder charge, but he entered what is called a so-called slow plea late last week to a lesser offense of injury to a child by omission. The slow plea is an admission of guilt, but a jury must select a punishment. This defendant promised he would take the stand to explain what happened in the death of his 3-year-old daughter, seen right there. The defendant first said she disappeared in October 2017 after he left her outside to discipline her for not drinking her milk. Then he changed his story and said that she died choking on milk and that he hid her body in a culvert. Let's listen to him explain what happened.
Untruthful to police officers. I admire and I cherish the work that police officers do. Every single day, they put on their uniforms and they kiss their loved ones, and they get to work, putting their lives on line to protect people like me. And it pains and saddens me knowing that I was untruthful to them, to these honorable men and women who wear the uniform in blue.
You're not only untruthful to Officer Savage, but you were also untruthful to Officer Diaz when you had that original interview with him. Isn't that also true?
That is correct. So Officer Savage, Officer Diaz, Officer Farmer, and the Richardson Police Department who were involved, who answered my call and who were involved in this.
What about the other men and women in law enforcement and that canine handler that came down? What do you have to say to them?
Truly sorry, truly I don't have words to express how sorry I am to these fine officers, these fine people who were filled with love and concern for my baby Sharon, and they devoted a lot of time and effort and their energy to find my baby Sharon when I could have easily stopped that. And I apologize to all of the dear ones who went heart and soul to look for my baby Sharon.
Well, let's back up. Mr. Matthews, let's just jump straight into the frying pan and go to October 7th and 8th. I believe it was a Friday. You got home. You were getting ready to put the kids to go to bed, you and your wife, Sini. Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what happened when you put the kids to bed.
So I had just taken my shower, and I stepped into the master bedroom, and Mama Sini was already in bed with Shayna, and Sharon was sleeping or lying in her crib. And I took my position in the right side of the bed. And as I lay down, I had a big day on Saturday. I had a lot of work to finish up on Saturday, so my mind was thinking about all the things that I had to do on Saturday. And as I was thinking about all of that, I can hear Sharon turning and tossing in her bed. And she did that a couple of times. And that seemed very surprising to me, because Sharon usually, the moment she lies down, she sleeps, or she might just turn once and she usually sleeps. But this was a couple of times she was tossing and turning. And I looked to her and I saw her looking at me, and I asked her, "Sharon, are you hungry?" And she nods her head. And I tell her, "Okay, come, let's go drink our milk." And she gets up and I pick her from the crib, and we walk towards the door. And I grab my phone, I give it to Sharon so she can hold on to it. And I open the door, and Sharon goes in front of me, and I step out into the hallway, and I close the door. Sharon goes to our play area. Now there are modem and router lights that are lighting up, so it's kind of lit up. So Sharon goes to the play area, while I walk straight to the breakfast area, and I turn on the lights halfway, and I get her bottle from the kitchen, the one that she was supposed to finish, but she hadn't finished. So I threw that milk out. I cleaned the bottle out. I dried it, and I poured fresh milk for Sharon. And I told Sharon, "Come on, babe, it's time to finish your milk." So she comes and she stands by the spot. There's a spot, Sharon's spot. That's where usually she stands and drinks her milk. So I give her the bottle. She stands there and she starts to work on her milk. I take a chair by the breakfast area. I sit there, and I'm going over all the things for the next day. And so time passes. I'm feeling sleepy. I want to engage myself in doing some activities so I don't fall asleep. So I do some cleaning around the house, do some chores, clean up the wood floors, and things of that sort. And I check back on Sharon, and Sharon hasn't finished her milk. I tell her, "Babe, hurry up. We got to finish your milk and we got to go back to sleep." She nods her head. And afterwards, a little while later, I play on the piano for a while. Meanwhile, Sharon is in her spot. And I come back, and then Sharon is still working on her milk. So I tell her, "Babe, hurry up, come on, we got to finish our milk." And she again nods her head, but she doesn't finish as much. So by now, I'm really concerned, because the whole day, I don't know how much she has had to eat. The whole day, I don't know how much milk she has had to drink. And we've always been on a very strict emphasis by the doctors.
Counsel, please approach. Lisa, let me know when you're ready.
Okay, looks like we're heading to a sidebar here. I am joined by Linda Kenny-Bodden and Jean Rossi. So, Linda, Jean, I'm guessing we've got an objection here, and they're just doing it so that the jury can't hear it. Linda, is that your assessment?
Right. I think what happens is there's no question pending, the prosecutor will say. However, I, like Jean, would let him talk, because I think he's giving fodder for cross-examination.
Oh, okay. Linda taking the prosecution's view here. I think we might be going back into testimony, though. The sidebar is wrapped up. So let's go back to court as this defendant is on the stand.
Consumed with her being Sharon, daily intake of food, milk, or what have you?
Sharon was underweight, and so the emphasis was on us as parents to make sure she gets to eat a lot of calories, take a lot of calories. And so we would always...
Who provided the emphasis to you?
The Dr. Dakel's clinic started it, and the feeding therapist also was following up on that.
And what were the things that they had you do?
Dr. Dakel's clinic essentially told us back in February that it is not the amount of food that she eats, it's the amount of milk that she drinks. So she definitely needs to drink 2 8 ounces of milk at least every day. And on top of that, if she wants to eat something, she can eat, and then it's up to her, whatever it is. So we've always been under that firm guideline by Dr. Dakel's clinic to make sure that...
And I'm sorry, I want to try to break it down into smaller answers and questions, Mr. Matthews. What were you afraid of? What were you afraid of if Sharon wouldn't reach her goals? What were you afraid of during this time period?
Essentially, since we've already been called out once by CPS, and CPS investigated us for 4 months, at the end of it, they cleared us of all the allegations. We were always afraid that this doctor can go and dial back CPS and bring CPS back to us. The doctor can say parents are not feeding the child enough, and so it falls on us. So we try all encouragements and all different ways to help Sharon gain a little more weight.
What were the different techniques, strategies that you used to get Sharon to drink her milk?
We would have these additional milk powders. They're called breakfast essentials, and they're in different flavors: strawberry, chocolate, vanilla, and the 3 flavors. And then we would have Horlicks in the house. So we would alter these flavors so that Sharon would not get used to drinking just one flavor all the time, and she would start rejecting one flavor. So we would keep altering these flavors, and then we would give her time. Let's say she can drink 2 ounces or 4 ounces in 20-40 minutes, and then go take a break, play, and then come back later and drink another 4 ounces.
Now let's go back now. We understand what was at the back of your mind is the probability of CPS getting involved again, or CPS coming in and taking your children away.
That is correct, sir.
So you wanted to make sure that Sharon at least got her daily quota, for lack of a better word, of her milk intake? Is that correct?
We would definitely try to do that, yes, sir.
So Sharon is in her spot, and describe for the jury where her spot was in your home, and what do you mean by it was her spot? What do you mean by that?
So it's a place in the house. Let's say I'm standing in Sharon's spot. To my right would be the kitchen. To my left would be the breakfast area. In front of me would be the living area with the TV. And there would be 2 hallways on either side. The left side hallway goes down to the master bedroom. The right side hallway goes down to the 3 other bedrooms. So Sharon essentially picked that spot because she can watch her TV standing in that spot and try to finish her milk. And also she can look at Dada when Dada is working, or she can look at Mama when Mama is in the kitchen. So essentially Sharon picked that spot, and that was her favorite spot to be holding her milk and drinking her milk.
In addition to the fear of CPS coming in and maybe taking your kids away or getting in trouble with Dr. Daigle or anybody with her clinics because of the feeding issue, were you also afraid of the next step if the feeding didn't go well, of her having to have a feeding tube?
Yes, sir. So Dr. Daigle's clinic put in the order for a special facility called Our Children's House. This facility specializes in placing NG tube or G tube for kids so that kids can be fed more calories through a tube.
Is that something that you and Cindy wanted to avoid at all costs, of having a feeding tube put in Sharon because you thought that she could drink the milk on her own?
Yes, we definitely did not want Sharon to have a feeding tube, essentially because Sharon had completed her occupational therapy and physical therapy, and she had done so well. She had gained so much ground, and the moment she's admitted to a hospital, in Our Children's House, a clinic such as that, the stay would be at least 30 days. 30 days, and in a place like that, Sharon cannot be doing her regular therapy exercises or continue with her regular therapy exercises. She cannot be interacting with other kids because there could be a possibility that other kids might pull the tube out, or something might happen. So this was weighing heavily in our minds, essentially more so because Sharon, in all aspects, was a healthy child. She had no medical conditions trying to suck, swallow, and reflex. She could eat, chew, drink very well, no issues at all. And based on the feeding therapist Nikki's recommendation, Nikki had put in that Sharon has severe behavioral issues regarding feeding. And that is why Dr. Daigle's clinic put in the order to admit Sharon for a feeding tube at Our Children's House.
Well, let me stop you there. So all these things are swimming through your head sometime that evening on that Friday night. And at some point, what do you do with Sharon?
So at some point, I decided to go to the garage because I had just cleaned it out and it was nice and clean. I was walking barefoot in the garage, so it was pretty clean. And I wanted Sharon to be able to take a look at the new lawnmower that I had bought. I'd known that she had a fascination for the lawnmower, so I decided maybe she might be interested in looking at the lawnmower and be able to help finish her milk. So I take Sharon to the garage and I show her the lawnmower and get her comfortable in the garage so that she's able to drink her milk.
And then what happens?
Then a little while later, I get a little sleepy and I'm trying to doze off with my chin on my elbow, and my elbow is pinching my left leg. At that point, I just wake up from my little nap, and I see Sharon standing with her bottle, holding like this, with the straw going into her mouth. And I don't see any milk activity. Just I can see the milk staying in the straw, but I don't see her swallowing her milk. And I tell her, Sharon, hurry up and finish your milk. I say that to Sharon.
And what happened next?
It came out much louder than I expected, and it startled her. And immediately she tried to swallow what was in her mouth, and she tried to cry at the same time. She was startled, and so as a result, she started choking and coughing pretty soon because of that choke. And her coughing wouldn't subside. So I picked her up and I rubbed her back, I cupped her back so that her cough would be relieved. But it wasn't subsiding, and I saw that her coughing was getting worse. So I cried out to Mama, I cried out to Mama, and I kept saying, Sharon, come on, it's okay, baby, we can go back inside, but her coughing was getting worse, and at one point I felt that she was just falling backwards, and I had to support her with my right hand, and I felt that I could not control her, so I had to lay her on the floor. I was on my knees, I laid her on the floor just to make sure that she was okay. But her breathing had gotten much more heavier, and I tried to call Mama. I tried to gently shake Sharon so that she would be out of that spell, but nothing was working. And in a matter, I don't know, pretty soon, her head started going in either direction, and her head came to a still.
You understand that the information you're sharing with the ladies and gentlemen of the jury now is different. You're adding more than what you've told the police back in Richardson in late October. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
And what you're saying is what happened, and you did not go into that type of detail back on the 23rd?
Yes, sir.
At some point, does Sharon become lifeless?
Yes, sir. I check her pulse. I check her pulse on her left arm. And I try to listen to her pulse. I don't listen. I don't hear anything.
At some point, do you try to perform CPR?
Yes, sir. Immediately, my instincts kick in to perform CPR.
Why in God's green earth did you not pick her up, run inside the house, go into your room where your wife, who is a nurse, is asleep? Why didn't you do that? Based on what I've learned about CPR, my instinct was to provide CPR immediately because I did not want any delays at all, and I did not want to waste any time. I wanted to just start providing CPR so that I could, save some time. The more the time is wasted, then the harder it's to resuscitation to work. Why didn't you pick up the phone and call 911?
Essentially, I wanted to continue doing CPR, sir.
At some point, did you realize that your attempts to conduct CPR failed?
I kept on giving CPR, persisting in it, trying to make sure that some way, fashion, or form CPR would work and my baby would come back to me.
My question was, at some point, did you realize that your efforts failed?
Yes, sir.
When your efforts failed, why didn't you pick up a phone, go into the house, scream, yell, do something?
I was way too shocked by what had happened. I could not absorb what had happened. I could not believe that, in a very quick time, my child had gone from me, and I was just stunned by the whole thing, and I was literally paralyzed.
Then what did you do?
You're listening to testimony from the defendant himself in the Matthews trial from Texas. This defendant describing the death of his own daughter, basically in his own hands. Attorney Linda Kenny-Bodden, your reaction to the testimony?
Well, I think there's so much to cross him on. Right now, I would be planning and feeding this to the medical examiner to say, does somebody really die? You're just drinking your chocolate milk and go, and all of a sudden you drop dead? Because I know the answer, and it's no.
Yeah, I mean, there's another way to deal with this medically. I think Gene Rossi, I'm not the expert in it, but this is not out of the textbook that I ever learned in any CPR class I ever took. What do you make of this?
I don't know of a child who ever choked and died from trying to drink milk. And this reminds me, when you're in a ditch 12 feet deep and you're only 6 feet tall, the first thing you do is stop digging and put the shovel down.
Okay.
Okay.
Gene Rossi's got euphemisms all over the place
Yeah,
here.
he
We're
does.
going to wrap up the day here on the Daily Debrief. For those of you watching this special coverage of this live testimony coming out of the case in Texas that we're talking about right now, defendant Wesley Matthews on trial right now after copping a plea to lesser charges involving the death of his daughter, Sharon Matthews. Again, you're listening to this testimony where he admits one version of the story, but it's not the only version of the story. He told multiple versions of this story to police, and you listen to the defense basically jumping in and saying, well, you know, you do realize you told a different version of this story earlier on in this investigation. And he's like, well, yes, I'm telling more now. So look, we're going to wrap all of this up tomorrow on the Debrief. If you're watching on the Law&Crime Network, we're going to be back with more live coverage of this testimony. If you're watching just the Debrief, we need to wrap up for the day. We will see you tomorrow on the Debrief, same time, same place, right here on Law&Crime.